Could have used less of a budget, but choose a different approach, and instead of making this movie in a year, preparation in a year, let us prepare that for much longer time. For example, he started really thinking of making that movie in 1995. He could by then, in a non-Hollywood spirit way, he could have said, you know what, I'm going to spend this weekend, instead of going to a restaurant and have dinner with some rich people, Martin Scorsese, Martin Scorsese could have said, you know what, it's already had that in the United States, this culture of reenactment. It really became big later on, by sort of 2005, but it already had it, and sort of asked a fella, do you know anything, do you know any people that are very interested in that era, in the United States era? And said, yeah, the reenactors. Said, oh, well, you know what, could you get somebody to eventually get one of those reenactors to at least meet me once or something? And then obviously they would have gotten one to meet him once, and then said, for example, they would have met a man called Jerome, a Civil War reenactor. He meets Martin Scorsese. He is super happy to meet Martin Scorsese in 1995. And he says, Jerome, you know what I want to make? I have it as an idea, probably it will be done quite soon, a movie. It will be called Gangs of New York, and I want it to be very realistic. And now I'm thinking about the clothing. Do you have anybody? And it would be like, oh, no, I'm very good at about tents. I know everything about tents and camping of that era, and could be useful. He said, oh yes, but what about the clothing? He said, clothing, I know the basics. This team of fellas, I could get somebody to contact them to help us into reenactment, and they are like the geeks of at least 19th century, generally speaking. There are about 20 fellas of those, I think. There should be at least 20. Said, well, get that person to contact those 20 persons. So then, step by step, they would have contacted them, and then they would have contacted, you know what, Martin Scorsese wants to make that film. Who here is super good, the best one for the 1860s men's clothing? And then they say, oh, me, Edgar. And then I say, what about for the women's clothing? Oh, me, Margaret. Oh, you, Edgar, you, Margaret. And then they would have met with Martin Scorsese, and they would have said, you know what, you 20 folks, get more people like you that you know, or more or less know, and try to make the most accurate. I don't know, what do you need? What do you need? Martin Scorsese would have been, you know what, it will be a big budget movie, so you will have that much off a budget, and probably they would have replied, we do not even need that much, we already know these shops can do that. And then Martin Scorsese could have had a look, or perhaps Edgar, like the biggest expert, would have said, oh, you know what, that shop, like I'm thinking of Fuchsia's, an actual shop, it's not that accurate, you want it to be bloody accurate, so this is good for the extras, but I think we should get originals. And then Martin Scorsese would have, can we get originals? Yes, but it's very long way. No, start now, you know what, you get that much money, but you get me, you work on it 24 hours a day. You know, they could have done something like that, a sort of way more underground procedure that in the end would have looked at least as much historically accurate as per me, in my opinion, but in another level. So basically, more accurate in some ways, but more inaccurate in some others. They would not have been able, in a movie like that, with hundreds of, like the first scene where they fight. I think I tried to count them once, and adding the lines that about, I would say, max 250 people, which is a lot. In some reviews they said, oh, it has thousands of extras. No, they never do that. Only that for Ben-Hur in the 1950s, and it was like one of the hardest movies ever and one of the hardest scenes ever, because in one scene to have it for 1,000 extras. But even a scene like that in Gangs of New York is very hard to make, because with 250 extras you have to think, to have to cloth those people, to have to put makeup on them, to have to tell them what to do, where to move, how to behave, what to shout, what to yell, how to act, what you do with him, how you fight, to have to choreograph all that fight, make sure that, you know, it's super hard even with 250 people. So, still, it is a movie with a lot of extras. Many scenes have a lot of people. I'm thinking of that scene, obviously, of like the first scene in 1800 when slavery is abolished scene, where to celebrate that. Again, perhaps 100 people or more, 200 people. Even the boat scene, when people come off the boat, a little bit less, but still perhaps 100 persons in total. In one shot there are at least 50 persons, and they all have to be dressed in this, and they probably take the same extras every time, or more or less the same people, but they have to dress them differently and put different makeup on for them to appear as different persons. For the people that are playing, the natives in the first 10 minutes are basically the same that play the Irish immigrants in about 20 minutes of the film, but obviously they look like different persons because it is 16 years later and are Irish immigrants. So basically they need so much that obviously for the extras you cannot deal with originals on so many levels. First off, this is too long ago. So even back in 2002 you had not enough originals left that would have fitted modern people. People were much shorter back then, not because of evolution. This is so dumb. People say evolution. Evolution takes millions of years. So basically modern humans like us, even albinos like us, might have existed 500,000 years ago, exactly the same physically, with the same brain. I can go back with a time machine 500,000 years ago, 500, like 500,000 years ago, take from the African savannah, that was the only place where humans were, and a human, Homo sapiens, sapiens is our precise place, a baby human, I bring him back to 2022, and he will have the same education in a modern person, and he will grow to be like me, with the same brain. He can do computer science, all right? So it were the same. The humans themselves, the bigger type, like not our subtypes of Homo sapiens, sapiens took millions of years of evolution. So when we see like a human that looks half like a monkey, it was not 500,000 years ago, it was millions of years ago. And they step by step, some became like what we are, and some just died, like some got genocided mostly by us, to be honest, but to try to hide that. But Homo sapiens, sapiens are, which is our species, Homo, and that also includes, this is like the king species, it includes all the apes, including tiny chimpanzees and all, and then sapiens is this precise species, it basically means human, so it includes Neanderthal and all like Homo erectus, all these weirdish humans that could not have learned computer science even if they were born today. And then the precise race is Homo sapiens sapiens. And then a sub-race would be Dravidian. Dravidian is what I am, is what Bill the Butcher is what the Muslims, Muslims is a religion, but I mean what is that filming? So Dravidian albino is what I am. It means people with usually a narrow head, a thin, long nose, thin lips, usually more or less, and that is Dravidians, like the Indians. But also many Indians are black, so what are we? Like the white people, we're Dravidian albinos, we are albinos, we have no pigmentation. But many people like Daniel Day-Lewis would call themselves white, but he will not because he is a Jew, but they are like him physically and they call themselves white. Truly he's sort of beige, and there are few actually white people like me left because of more and more. There are few albinos, to be honest. Albino simply means white, and there's a disease that means you cannot have pigmentation. And albino does not mean you have your entire hair which is white. This is an extreme case. People only call those albinos because they are denying the fact white people will control the world, i.e. people like me, Christian white albinos. This is a Muslim cap, I'm wearing it as an indoor cap, I'm not a Muslim, but basically Christian white people control the earth, and they do not want to say we are albinos because that is a defect, as I tell you we are white, but this is what they are. But now a lot of them call themselves white because they are racist, whatever, it has been known as a race, but rarely they are not white. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis, I was talking, forget him because he's a Jew, so he will say that he's a Jew, and Jews are like different. They want to say that they are not the race that, like Jews would say, I am not like Elois because I am Elois, because I am a Jew, so it is a race. Jewish is not a race, it is a religion, but to them it is a race, so blast, whatever, we can't say anything against them anyhow, it's not allowed, so. But it's Jews actually, most of them, to look like me because they are the same race. They are refugees. So, you being a Jew